Well, hello, all my StressTube and YouTube and MidWest Center friends. This is Steve Ferris coming back at you again. I hadn't planned on doing so quickly, but I had so many email messages and so many comments that I wanted to get back with you and answer a couple things. First of all, one of the things I do want to touch upon is a message I received asking if I was legit. And I'm not quite sure how they meant that, but the way I interpreted that message is, are you trying to sell us something? Do you work for the MidWest Center? Do you have your own program? Are you trying to steal people away from the MidWest Center? Absolutely not. I believe in the MidWest Center's program. I use it. I refer to it. It's my Bible. The book is falling apart. And I'm not telling you which program to buy. That's up to you. We're all unique. We're all different. And so no. The only reason that I come to you via these videos is to share with you my own testimony in hopes that I can give someone a glimmer of opportunity, a glimmer of hope that they can make it through. Because I so desperately needed that. The psychologist and the psychiatrist and the counselors that I spoke to did not seem to help. Nothing was working, and it was the program and the videotapes and working with Lucinda. You know, I always say working with Lucinda because when I'd watch the videotapes, it was like she was in my house with me. And I actually hated when I got to the end of the program because it felt like that therapy was gone, and that's why I kept my program as I keep watching it. Although I've started to memorize some of the things she says, which is good because we internalize those things and they become our own personal mantra. And those are the things we need to remember when we're facing those very stressful and difficult times. Second, thank you so much for the compliments that I received in the thank you notes. That means a lot to me. Again, I'm not here to toot my own horn. I'm not here to sell a program. I am here to help and support other people. I am not a physician, I am not a counselor, and I'm not qualified to give you feedback or advice. I can lend you a shoulder, I can lend you my ear, but I'm not qualified as a doctor at this point. I'll come to that in just a bit. I did want to share with you a situation that happened to me 4 years ago. You know, I was one of those people, as many of us are, that suffer from anxiety and depression, that worries about illness. It's very common. It has to do with that feeling that you're losing control, that you're not going to be in control of your world anymore. And I used to get on the computer and the internet and I'd Google cancer, and then I'd have the symptoms. I'd Google Parkinson's disease, and then I'd have the symptoms. You name it, I would look it up and I would have it. And as I said, 4 years ago, I entered the hospital in intensive care, and I was informed at that point I was dying. Was it a shock? Absolutely. Did I go crazy like I always thought I would? No, I did not. Well, what happened? You know, it wasn't the cancer that I looked up that was taking my life at the time. It wasn't the brain tumors. It wasn't the Parkinson's disease. Guess what? It was the worry. All of those years of worrying about dying, about worrying about anxiety, about worrying about all those irrelevant what ifs that never came true, not only affected me emotionally, psychologically, but also now physiologically. I had ulcers throughout my stomach. I had an esophagus that was barely connected to my stomach, and bile was running in and out of my organs and my stomach, and I had damage to my liver, my pancreas, my kidneys, my spleen, and the poison even went to my brain. And the doctor said to my family, he will not come off this ventilator, and if he does, he has brain damage. Well, I'm here today We could obviously argue the brain damage, but I'm here today to tell you I made it through. And I made it through the grace of God. I'm very spiritual, and God brought me through a very horrific situation. And I believe God places good in our lives, not bad things. But I think He uses sometimes bad things to teach us important lessons. And my lesson was, why worry about things you may not have or will never have? And why worry about things that will happen tomorrow, next week, next year, when you've got the moment? So if you're suffering from a panic attack right now, you need to calm down, you need to focus, and you need to be thankful for this moment. Just take a deep breath and say, I'm going to push my anxiety to the side. The way that I finally learned to deal with my anxiety and my depression is I had had it. I had gotten so absolutely angry. I'm not talking violent, but I had gotten so absolutely angry that I forced myself to leave the house. I got in the car. I was terrified. My heart was beating. I could hardly breathe, but I finally forced myself to make that change. And with anxiety and depression, it starts with you. You have to take accountability. You have to make that first step, because if you don't, guess what? Nobody else is going to make it for you. You know, I was looking through my book today, my Attacking Anxiety and Depression workbook that is falling apart and ripping as I'm talking because it's so old. And I'm looking at Lesson 8 specifically. And for those of you that may be going through the program and on Lesson 8, you'll know what I'm talking about. And again, I don't want to divulge too much information because it's copyright protected, but I do want to talk about something that was successful for me. You know, in Chapter 8, it talks about overcoming limitations. And, you know, we realize how limitations impair us so much when we have this disorder. I limited myself from driving. I limited myself from going out with friends. I limited myself from telephone discussions. I limited myself really from life itself. And this is a great chapter on how to deal with limitations, crowded areas. The book, in my book, it's an older edition, talks about that. I hated crowded areas where there were a lot of people and you were shoulder to shoulder and it felt like you couldn't breathe. And although I still deal with that uncomfortable feeling when I'm at, shoulder to shoulder with someone in a crowded area, I've learned that I have the tools and the skills necessary to be able to get through that. It also talks about socializing, the fear of meeting new people, and that's something that I have really put a step forward in the right direction as far as working in interacting with other people. I've learned that people are wonderful. You know, if you can give someone a smile and they smile back, what a legacy you've left in that person's life. You made their moment for a split second, whether they or you realize it or not. So it's a wonderful chapter, and for those of you that need to look back or refer to some things that you're going through, this is always a good chapter to look back on. You know, it talks about writing out plans and writing things down. Keep a journal of when you're most stressful. And that's a good way that you can calm yourself down, is getting your mind off the here and now and focusing on what you went through and how you're going to prevent it from happening again. Well, I'm coming close to the end of my time. I did want to say hello. I apologize if I come across jumbled. I'm really excited about this topic. I'm really excited because I believe in people overcoming their fears and their phobias. And I sort of speak extemporaneously. I don't have a script. So hopefully this made sense. And I hope that you're all doing well. And if not, make that first move. Start fighting against your anxiety. God bless everybody.